To 2022 is on, so is the political machination. The latest, a presidential jibe at his deputy to resign. Odinga is facing the mountain, so is Mudavadi. Tonight on Pundits Night, we look at 2022 game plan. Good evening. I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. Welcome to the broadcast. As always, you can be part of these discussions. Send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use is Pundits Night. Our guests tonight, Professor Herman Manyora, political analyst. Rigathi Gachagua is Madhira lawmaker. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your time tonight.
Good evening.
All right, Professor, let me start with you. In a blistering Monday interview last week, the president said, and in part I quote, "I have an agenda and that I was elected on. The honorable thing to do, if you are not happy with it, is to step aside and allow those who want to move on to do so." This was in direct reference to his deputy from a question that was asked by a panel of editors who interviewed him last week on Monday. Is it time to resign, Prof?
Well, I think so. If in normal circumstances, the DP would have resigned anywhere in the world. But this, we are living in times that are very challenging. It is unlikely that a president would say that about their deputy, almost anywhere in the world, and the deputy would not resign. You know, there's an argument here that we have a difference between us and those who are vice presidents, who really are elected, not with the president on a ticket, but are selected by the president. So Ruto, being a person who was elected on the same ticket, may not fall in that same category. But I think those who say that miss the point. A deputy is a deputy. And I think the whole idea of being elected on the same ticket with the president having no power to fire the deputy is born out of very simple logic. People have different ways of arranging transition in the event of a vacancy. And more often than not, these vacancies arise out of very bad circumstances, like death. So people want to know, what do we do in the event we have such a vacancy in the office of the president? Do we go for another election? Does the deputy president or the vice president act for a period as it was in our earlier constitution, where the deputy had to act for the vice 90 days, and then there will be an election? Is that good for a country? Then some people really think, no, why can't the deputy just step in automatically? For that reason, people feel if you are being elected as president, give us somebody we can trust. If something happened to you, if the office became vacant, it's somebody we can see being a president.
Professor, let me interject you at that point, and I'm sure you must have heard the defense of the DP's side, which is he is not a political appointee. He was elected in a ticket that constitutionally required him to be the deputy and the president to be the head.
That's the point I'm making. The point is the deputy, as in our circumstances, is elected with the president because Kenyans are asking a man who wants to be president, what would happen in the event you are not there? And the president says, I'm giving you somebody. Now, since we trust that you have given us the right person, we don't want to give you the power after we have elected you, then a day or two later you sack him. No, we will maintain, we'll reserve that right ourselves. You will have no power to sack him because it is on the basis of the confidence we have that he can be a president that we elected you. You can give us Rigathi Gachagua, who is a good man who can step in if something happened to you. And then when we have elected you, now you are safe, you remove Rigathi Gachagua, you put Abubakar, who could be a lousy. So we are denying you that. It doesn't remove the fact that a deputy is still a deputy.
All right, let me bring in Rigathi Gachagua to the discussion. Madhira lawmaker. In his response, the DP a day later said, and I quote again, "I'm a man of vision and I have no space to retreat and the luxury to surrender." He says no to resigning. Is it an option from where you sit?
Thank you, Abubakar. Resignation of Deputy President William Ruto is not an option. It will not happen. And the framers of the 2010 Constitution envisaged such situations. Professor is right that the people of Kenya gave the president a deputy and never wanted where there can be a situation where the president can sack him. In the same breath, the president cannot ask his deputy to step aside because one, he's not his appointee. He is elected by the people of Kenya. You know, Abubakar, when I went to vote, I found the name of President Uhuru Kenyatta on the ballot and his photograph and the Jubilee sign. Alongside, there was a name called William Ruto. I liked both and I put a tick. I have no problem with William Ruto. I elected him. The 8 million Kenyans who elected William Ruto have no problem with him. I heard the Honorable Raila Odinga saying that Jaramogi Oginga Odinga resigned when he disagreed with the Kenyatta. True, that is the way it should have been because Jaramogi was an appointee of Jomo Kenyatta. So if Kenyatta had a problem with him, he resigned before he is sacked.
Rigathi,
but
you say
for William Ruto, he is not appointed and he is elected. And the people who elected him have no problem with him.
Rigathi, you say the people who elected him have no problem with him, that you yourself as someone who voted for the duo have no problem with him. But his boss, the President of the Republic of Kenya, who the DP is constitutionally to be the primary assistant to, has a problem with him. And surely that problem is public.
Yeah, he has a problem with him, but that is him as a person. Let me tell you, Abubakar, the call by the president for the deputy president to resign is a culmination of various strategies to force him out of office. And the president has run out of those options. To a point now, he has to appeal to the deputy president to step aside. It all started after the 2018 handshake, when the president, from nowhere, removed all duties from the deputy president and gave them to the minister Fred Matiang'i. From there we saw the humiliation and frustrations by the office of the president through the county commissioners. From there we saw the deputy president being refused to go and inspect projects. All those things were to force him out and he refused. It was meant to annoy him and provoke him to start a war with the president, which he refused. He took it in stride. And after that, they tried to organize an impeachment, and they realized they could never get the numbers. The handshake people, the Raila people, those who were agreeing with the president, they tried to come up with the numbers. It was not working. So after all these frustrations and attempts to make him to resign, because that is what they wanted to do, frustrate him, humiliate him, make life impossible for him, believing that he could not take it because he is assumed to be a very abrasive. And once it was not working, the only option the president was left with is to ask him to resign, and he has said he's not resigning. People have to learn to live with him for the next 11 months.
As I bring in Professor to the discussion, just on the question of frustrations, you will equally understand there are those who say these are self-inflicted frustrations, that the DP is accused of starting the 2022 race of wanting to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta way too early.
No, nothing. Far from it. There is nothing the deputy president has done from 2018 that is different from what he was doing in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. He would go around the country inspecting development projects, opening roads, going to church, and the president did not have a problem with that because he needed him for his re-election.
All right.
As soon as he was re-elected, then he had a problem with his style. And Ruto is an aggressive politician. Even before the president met him, he was as aggressive. He couldn't just change his style simply because the president is going for his last term. So if the president had a problem with his style, he had the opportunity in 2017 to change him as a running mate and get somebody else whom he can work with.
Fair enough, and you say he's an aggressive politician. We will come to the question whether that aggressiveness is costing him politically. Prof, was it the 2018 handshake between the duo, or was it a case of starting a race way too early, as the president himself talked about at the Bombers launch?
Of course, before I touch on that briefly, allow me, Abubakar, to help fellow Kenyans to understand this. The question of a deputy governor, deputy president, heir to the throne, vice president, is a very simple thing. It's like when you are driving a car, you need a spare tire. It's just as simple as that. It's important that you have it. How deputies are elected may differ from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, from one country to another. Like even prime minister or minister, there could be a place, a country where once you have appointed ministers, you have no power to sack them. Once you have appointed a prime minister as the president or whatever it is, you may have no power. It may go through parliament. Those are the details of how you engineer the arrangement of how you get your deputy. But the principle of who a deputy is, whether you didn't appoint him or you appointed him, whether I saw something circulating on WhatsApp, it's a very good explanation of this. To do with the deputy principal of our school is not appointed by the principal, but surely he remains the deputy principal. Deputy CEO is not maybe appointed by the CEO, but he remains deputy CEO. So this idea of deputy, we must understand it for what it is. Now, what the Kenyan Constitution has done is to deny the president the power to sack the deputy for good reason, like I've explained. Because you told us this is the man you trust. If something happened to you, then he will take over. We can't allow you to change it. That is good enough as far as it goes. But there are also issues of principle. As a person, when your boss casts you in a certain light, in the manner in which President Uhuru Kenyatta talked about Ruto, the honorable thing to do in a civilized society is honesty to live. But that we leave it to the deputy because then he lives in his own world. Some of us live in our own. But to answer your question now, of course, it can't be anything else. It is about the handshake. And once the handshake happened, and I've said repeatedly, you put in the handshake and come up with BBI, which is a political infrastructure. BBI then is an infrastructure to ensure that 2022 comes and you, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, then get power. You get power so that you can implement those things you think are the ideals for which you shook a hand, each other's hand. The ideals and aspirations are captured within the BBI. You kind of believe the only way you can implement these things in BBI is if you yourself get power. So if another person like Ruto gets the power, there is no guarantee you'll implement those things.
And Professor, is he justified then to say he is not resigning, to be public about the spot then, given that the BBI political infrastructure you are talking of seemingly excluded him, at least as per the view of those who support him?
You see, I've said repeatedly, many times, that nobody will blame Ruto. He was headed for the presidency in 2022. Then the handshake happened and everything went just haywire. So whatever he's doing must be understood within the context of here was a sure win 2022. And then Raila comes along with Uhuru. They come up with the handshake. And that spoils everything for him. So the reactions and the things he's doing must be seen within that context.
All right, Rigathi Gachagua, is it a case of being edged out or just walking out of the room?
Well, to start with, I agree with Professor. The BBI had nothing to do with the people of Kenya. It was about the 2022 succession. So we have a lot of hypocrisy. On one side, the president and the former prime minister are telling us the BBI is not about politics, it's not about 2022, it's about bringing the people together. BBI was high voltage politics for the last 3.5 years, costing us a lot of money from the taxpayers. Yet at the same time, when they are doing high voltage politics through the BBI, they are accusing Deputy President William Ruto of doing politics. It's only that the politics was being done differently. The president and the former prime minister were doing succession politics through the BBI. William Ruto was doing his politics by going directly to the people.
Rigathi, you say so. Let me interject you there. You say so despite the president being public that him and Raila Odinga have not at once talked about 2022 succession. The president is on record saying that.
What he says is one thing, but the reality is a totally different thing.
And where do you get that reality from, Rigathi?
That you saw the picture in Mombasa. You know, the 5 characters, the 5 positions. That is what the BBI was all about. And that is why there is so much anger that the BBI has become a cropper. And they are trying to blame William Ruto for the failure of BBI. William Ruto was not a judge of the High Court. He did not sit on the bench before the Court of Appeal. All he did is that he pointed out issues that, in his opinion, were unconstitutional. And as it may be, it has come to pass. The issues he raised are the same issues that were raised by the High Court judges and the judges of the Court of Appeal. But I can tell you, the BBI was about 2022 succession. And they were accusing Ruto of politicking when they are politicking themselves. It's only that they were using the BBI as their vehicle towards 2022 to craft a winning coalition. William Ruto, when he realized the game that was being played by the president and the former prime minister, decided to go directly to the people. You know, and all of them were doing the same thing. Yet, these two are trying to blame one for going directly to the people when themselves were also organizing 2022 in the boardrooms. Let's be fair, you know, and nobody is a fool in this country. Abubakar, people are very clever. You know, people have gone to school, and Kenyans are very enlightened. They can see through these things. You know, they were saying the BBI is not about 2022, it's about making peace. How do you make peace? How do you build bridges, new ones, when you break the old ones? If you want to build new bridges, you sustain and keep the old ones that are tested and have worked. But you cannot say you are bringing Kenyans together when you are leaving some Kenyans outside. You cannot. So it was about 2022, and that is why there's a lot of confusion now. There's a lot of confusion because...
Rigathi, was it a case of leaving some Kenyans out or a case of leaving the deputy president out?
The deputy president is not an ordinary Kenyan.
But he's not some Kenyan, he's one Kenyan,
he has millions of followers like ourselves and others. So that is why you find in the Mount Kenya region, the people with William Ruto are 62 members of parliament. The ones who are with the handshake are less than 15. You know?
All right.
Because they were left out of their regiment and they made their own arrangements to stay afloat and to stay relevant.
All right, let me bring in Professor to the discussion. Prof, you want to react to that? You want to react to that, Prof?
I agree with him that BBI was about 2022, like I had already said. But again, it doesn't also mean that much as it was about 2022, it didn't have good things within it. I have always supported the idea of BBI. Because some of the things BBI is really looking at are some of the things that have brought this country almost to its knees in terms of the violence during electoral cycles, certain inequalities within the country, and so on and so forth. So there are good ideas within BBI. Of course, again, there are bad things inside. So it doesn't mean that, what I was trying to explain over this, BBI is an idea that contains what Uhuru and Raila think will sort out the mess in this country, our political mess, that lead to our economic stagnation. Now, I want to say, for that to be realized, you need to get power post 2022 to realize that. And that's how then BBI again now becomes an infrastructure to be used for 2022. That's what I meant.
But Herman, will people like those who support the DP not have a case then when they look at a president who is serving his final term, proposing an idea that will be post his term as the president and clearly chart a way forward for a succession?
You know, I've heard people saying when you serve as president, just walk home like Kibaki. It rarely happens like that. Every serving leader of a country, or a nation, for good or for worse, will always want to take an interest in what happens after him. It could be for selfish reasons. You want to maintain some hold on power. In places like Namibia, you saw long after Sam Nujoma had left office, his motorcade was greater than that of the president and he received better, and so on and so forth. Or even for really serious issues. If you love your country so much and you've been there for 10 years, it's only natural that you wish that you get somebody who doesn't destroy what you have started building. And finally, when you are a leader of a country, because you cannot, the things Uhuru is doing and Ruto were things that were started by Kibaki. And likewise, some of the things they are starting now will be done, like the Big Four, will be done by those who come after Uhuru. So for that reason, I doubt that there will be a president or a leader who just walks out. Even in Western democracies, you see departing leaders. Obama need not have been openly in support of Hillary Clinton, but it was there. And after nominations, it was clear. He supported Biden. He campaigned for him. In other words, it is perhaps in the interest of the party, your party, as you are leaving, you would wish that your party continues in power. Sometimes because of the policies, sometimes there are societies where you find different parties hold very different views and philosophies. You see, left and right, you know, very extreme right, extreme left, center left. So you might want to be interested in who succeeds you, not always for bad reasons.
All right, Rigathi, you talk of the BBI seemingly not having the interest of Kenyans, but this is a process that was fashioned by the president as though it was a process of bringing Kenyans together, and in particular also a process of an economic gain, and in particular again to the central region where you and the president are from. You don't believe that?
I don't believe it.
Why so?
You know, Abubakar, we are being told that the BBI would have given more bursary to the people of Central Kenya. It's an insult to the people of Central Kenya. The people of Central Kenya are hardworking people. They are people who pride themselves in hard work and enjoying their sweat. The people of Central Kenya do not want bursaries. Awarding of bursaries is a very humiliating experience because normally what happens as people compete for the scarce resources, they pour out and give testimonies of how poor they are so that they benefit. It is very humiliating to the people of Central Kenya. The people of Central Kenya would want a situation where the economy is improved, there is money circulation, we have guaranteed minimum return for coffee, for tea, for milk. They can make enough money and pay their own school fees. There is pride, and Professor Manyora here knows, there is pride for a father to go to school and pay school fees and get a receipt and go home. You know, this thing of going to line up to beg for handouts to go and pay school fees is a very humiliating thing. And therefore, when people are saying that BBI would give the people of Central Kenya more bursary, it was very insulting to us. What we would want, we in Central Kenya, is an economic Marshall Plan to revive our economy. And I must tell you, Abubakar, where we are coming from as a region. Retired President Mwai Kibaki left a very thriving economy where people had money, where business was flourishing, where people who supplied the government were paid, where people were able to do business without harassment, where there were no evictions, there were no demolitions, where Kenyans, you know, were all over. You know, when we were doing Thika Road, you know, the gain from that road was felt by the people. You saw the bypasses, you know, the houses that came up along the bypasses. And 9 years down the line, we are poor people. You know, we are people who are struggling. We are people whose businesses have come down. If you look at a leading daily newspaper, you'll find about 10, 15 pages of auctions, you know, people's property being auctioned. And when you check, 80% of those people are from the Central Kenya region. So telling us that you are giving us BBI to give us more bursary is an insult to our people. What we want and what we aspire for is economic revival. We want economic programs to give us money. And we are saying things like 35% that was going to the counties is a good idea. But we don't have to wait for a constitutional amendment. The present constitution gives the minimum as 15%. There is no ceiling upwards. And we were saying because we don't believe there is enough money to give 35%, because already we are struggling with 15, why don't you start even before you amend the constitution and give 25, give 30, give 35, give 40, and then we see how it works out. Number two, we are not interested in overburdening our people by creating more positions. You know, the BBI was to bring an expanded executive of 5 positions. And we are told that those 5 positions would stop the winner takes it all, it would end electoral violence. Electoral violence in this country is not caused by lack of positions. It is caused by people who refuse to accept election results. That cannot be addressed by any constitution. The issue of people accepting defeat is a moral issue. You know, people need to change their attitude. You know, but you cannot legislate attitude. You cannot legislate morality. You know, President Uhuru Kenyatta, my friend, in 2002 when he lost to Mwai Kibaki, he conceded defeat at Serena, and there was peace in this country, and everybody, moved on and accepted, because as a candidate, he accepted defeat. The issue that we have about electoral violence, and I didn't see a section in the BBI spelling out measures of what will be done to those who refuse to accept electoral defeat after exhausting the legal mechanisms of raising issues you may have with the results. I didn't see it.
Fair enough.
I want to say that cannot be addressed in the legislation.
All right, I see Professor Manyora nodding to what you are saying, Prof.
He has said so many things, I don't know which one to react. Let me begin with the last one. I have had this talk, and sometimes I get very disappointed that people should accept defeat. Indeed, people should accept defeat. That's how democracy works. In a contest, you can win or lose. If you lose, shake the hand of the man who has beaten you, go home, there is tomorrow. Even if you are maybe too old to run again, or you are too annoyed or whatever, somebody else will come up and even from your party, from your family, from your clan, from your community. But you see, the important thing here, Abubakar, is a question of fairness. If elections are not free and fair, how do you expect somebody to walk home quietly? You will expect, and the elections in Kenya have been anything but free and fair. We saw what happened in 2007. We don't need to discuss it here. We saw 2013, a bit of that, just a bit of it. 2017, the elections were nullified by the Supreme Court. So the elections have been anything but fair. For that reason, if BBI was addressing something that will introduce fairness in the election, I think it's good. So you can't say you want it legislated there, that if you lose, you will go. No, it's not like that. Is that what are the factors responsible for us not having good elections that lead then to all the problems that come around?
And for purposes of fairness, Prof, that was captured in the electoral justice front, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right, you're watching TV 47 Pundits Night. Time for us to take a short break. Keep talking to us. This discussion will be back right after this break. Stay with us.
The property industry in Kenya is growing in leaps and bounds. From bungalows, mansionettes, high-end apartments, all the way to mixed-use developments such as malls and mall residency. Well, how do you all break it down? Right here on TV47, we bring you The Realtor with me, Karanja Daniel, where we analyze the property industry right here in Kenya and bring you the latest from all the professionals that are involved, from architects, engineers, surveyors, as well as the construction experts themselves.
The property industry has shifted from where it was some years back.
It is very endearing to family people. Yes. Because you want your kids to grow up in a nice environment.
Real estate is an asset, a secured asset, granted a guaranteed asset.
Do not miss out every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m.
What does it take to be an alpha male? Is it by expressing your emotions?
For men, we're human beings, and we also have emotions, and we're also weak at some point.
Mimi nilienda nikaingia ndani ya maji ya bahari ili watu wasijue nalia. Ingia kidogo kitoka hivi mtu anasema ni maji, kumbe ni machozi. Machozi tu.
Is it how you treat your significant other?
You're beaten once. The man is a fool. When it happens twice and you're still there, you are the foolish one.
He gives you a house, you turn it into a home. He brings home beef, you make biryani for dinner.
By how many women you have in your corner?
I went and I banged all these other babes. And I looked at it, I was like, no way, nah. I want Keisha, I want Sheila, I want Brenda, I want Mary. So I decided to drop her.
Well, at the men's conference, we demystify this and so much more. Join us every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
Hi kids, welcome to Kids on the Block.
Here at Kids on the Block, we learn and have fun. We teach you easy cooking skills, art time, playtime, and many more. Join us and don't miss the fun every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
The reason
Cafe. Well, tune in to TV47 every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and enjoy diverse and the best of content on Morning Cafe with me, Linda Alela.
North Coast Medical Training College, NCMTC, we offer high-quality, competence-based courses in medical training of healthcare professionals using the latest technology and curriculum under TVET. Located in a serene and conducive environment for learning, if you have completed your O-levels in search of a pocket-friendly learning.
Welcome back to Pundits Night. We are looking at Gameplan 2022. Just a reminder of our guests are Madira Lawmaker Rigathi Gachagua, political analyst, Professor Hamon Manyora. Professor, before we went for a break and I interrupted you, you were making a point which was a reaction to what Madira Lawmaker had said. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wanting to agree with my Mudoniwa Rigathi Gachagua that handouts are not a good thing. In fact, it really hurts me to see children from well-up families applying for loans, university loan help, and bursaries. It is a bad thing. In many places in the world, even children don't get free money from their parents. So to that extent, I agree with him. But I also want to differ with him in the sense that the people of Mount Kenya also want a share of what government is giving the rest of Kenyans. They want a share of CDF, they want a share of bursaries, they need their share of all these devolved funds for good measure. So really it's not true that they don't want. Secondly, he talks about the people of Mount Kenya just wanting a good economy. That's good. Everybody needs a working economy. But there are two things I think he's allowing himself to forget. I know he's a very sharp guy. He's just deliberately allowing himself to forget. One is that world economy is not doing well globally. Many economies in the world are not. Almost every country is not doing what it should be doing as well as it should. Even before Corona has only made it worse, and this is a global phenomenon. And there are many reasons. If we begin enumerating them, you'll see there are many reasons. It is also true that the economy of Kenya is not doing well, and I choose to trace what is the genesis? How come, if the Kibaki economy was good, how come it collapsed under Uhuru and Ruto? And I can see two reasons. Why? One, Cousins told us, the U.S. undersecretary sometimes, he told us, choices have consequences. We elected two men who are facing charges at the ICC. If a man is facing a simple court case, you can't sleep. You can imagine somebody running the country, the president and his deputy, facing international crimes at the ICC. So this is a blunder we made as Kenya, but it's our choice to elect into office two men who are facing such a serious charges. It had an impact on their performance.
Fair enough.
Secondly, on that issue of performance, the kind of theft that went on in the first term of the Ruto administration, it is something nobody would have imagined would happen. The scale, the wanton theft, the careless borrowing, the exaggerated costing of projects. This happened when these guys were together. So really, and this is, if you want to know why this country is not doing well economically, you must pin it to those two reasons. One, these fellows spend a lot of their energy and time in the first years of their first term minding the ICC cases. Secondly, there was so much looting. 2013, 2017, the kind of looting of the economy was unimaginable. And therefore, we want a functioning economy, but let us not lie to anybody that it will be found as easily. We must change our ways. Because
fair enough.
If we continue, just a moment, if we continue stealing and thieving in the manner we are doing in this country, no economy can stand this kind of corruption. None at all. So we must say the people of Central Kenya will want a functioning economy, but they, together with other Kenyans, must join forces to fight the kind of corruption we witness in this country.
And Prof, I want us to talk of the unity of that Central Kenya in a minute's time. But just on the question of corruption, and you are very particular in your answer, pointing to the first time when the duo were working together without any bickering. But the president is equally on record for this year saying the government loses 2 billion shillings daily.
In fact, he is repeating what he had said many years earlier during the Kibaki administration when he was in charge of finance. Coming from his mouth, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, is that we steal 1/3 of our budget. So this 2 billion is really the same figure. It's just that now we are still working at 1/3. 2 billion per day, per day, works at around 700 billion. 700 billion is about 1/3 of our budget. So really it is sad. And unless we focus on that, no economic miracle shall happen. Whether it is trickle down, bottom up, bottom the other side, without checking theft, there can be no money to implement any meaningful development in this country.
Rigathi?
I think, Abubakar, I want to disagree with the professor that the personal challenges facing our president and his deputy at The Hague would be responsible for non-performance of the administration. Those were personal challenges, and every person has a challenge. And you cannot say because they are personal challenges, people cannot deliver. Most of the things we pride ourselves for the Uhuru administration, the Jubilee administration, were done in the first term. That is the SGR, about 10,000 kilometers of tarmac, more than 8 million Kenyans being connected to electricity, free secondary education, and so many other things that happened in that particular time. And I don't think corruption just took place in the first term. It has continued.
All right.
As you have rightly said, the president just the other day, even with the handshake and saying that the handshake was supposed to assist in fighting corruption, himself admitted that Kenya is losing 2 billion shillings daily.
All right.
We have the COVID haste. Nobody has been arrested today. And so we cannot attribute that to the first term. It is something that has been continuous. And finally, before we go to the Mount Kenya, there's something that you didn't give me a chance. You are trying to say that the president has a problem with the deputy president because of starting campaign early. I want to remind you, Abubakar, I was part of the Uhuru team. We started our campaign in 2010, 2011, 2012, 3 years. I never heard President Kibaki complain a single day that he is unable to work because we are going around the country. When we were doing prayer rallies preceding The Hague, it was in 2011, the whole year we were all over the country. And Uhuru was minister, for finance. And I never had a single day, he was deputy prime minister in the government. I never had a single day President Kibaki say he's unable to govern, he's unable to deliver to the people of Kenya because we are campaigning. Let's be fair. If it was good for the president then to campaign 3 years before, there's nothing wrong with his deputy looking for votes. I mean, in any
but the
case,
scenarios are different, Rigathi, isn't it? It wasn't Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka who was the vice president then campaigning while his boss Kibaki was in office.
It doesn't matter. Campaigning is campaigning. Uhuru was deputy prime minister in
positions matter. This is the deputy president.
That work was going on, and there's not a single day. Even Prime Minister Raila was there in Kibaki's government. He was campaigning. I never had a single day the president Mwai Kibaki, who did very well in fixing the economy of this country, complain a single day that he is unable to function because people are going for harambes, or they are going to church, or they are going for political meetings. I never had.
All right, let's now shift focus on talk of the unity of Mount Kenya as a voting bloc ahead of 2022. And Rigathi, while still responding, you are seemingly under sharp criticism by political leaders who in particular own political parties from Mount Kenya region. Let's listen to a bite from Moses Kuria so that I ask you this question.
I don't know when I became a criminal. I don't know when I became an outcast for Gachagua to go all over blasting me because I have a party. When I sat down with the deputy president, agreed to support them in Kiambaa. By the time I joined that campaign, according to their own, not mine, opinion polls, their candidate was scoring 23%. Jubilee candidate had 61%. And the deputy president requested me to take charge and organize that particular campaign. You will recall before Kiambaa, I had an MP before UDA. By that time, they had tried in Matungu, they had tried in Kabuchai, they had failed. And they had tried even in Bonchari, they had failed. So I offered to give them the winning formula that I had from Juja, from Gaturi, and it worked. It is to my horror and shock to get the kind of condemnation, the kind of criticism that I'm getting from people within the UDA corner. I have said again and again, I'm a founder member of the Hustler Nation. I'm still a believer of William Ruto. And I just feel like William Ruto has asked me for a date.
Rigathi, in response, you said that Central Kenya will support the deputy president, and you are very specific of UDA as a party. These are political leaders who have political parties. We are talking of NAK Kenya, we are talking of TSP, we are talking of Moses Kuria's Chama cha Kazi. Surely no one will force these political leaders to fold their own parties if they don't want to.
Well, to start with Abubakar, I cannot come here to discuss the Honorable Moses Kuria. One, he's a good friend of mine and he's my senior. And he is a very valued general in the Hustler Nation. We are one team, by the way. Myself and Moses Kuria wants Ruto to be president and to form the next government. And therefore, we are not in contest and we have no acrimony. Probably where it's just different of strategy, I am of the opinion that we should have one strong party, the UDA, and all of us are inside. Moses Kuria, and rightly so, and within his right, is of the opinion that probably we need many smaller parties coming together as coalition. So it's just a difference in terms of strategy, in terms of the way we look at politics. But Moses Kuria and myself are in concurrence that we want Ruto to be president, that we want to form the next government. So we are not in competition. And I'm sure along the way, we will get some formula that everybody is comfortable because the objective is one. It's like you want to go to Mombasa and, one person feels you should take a plane. Another one feels you should go by rail. Another one feels you should drive. Another one thinks you can walk. But all of you want to go to Mombasa. So, and that is what is most important. Moses Kuria is a very valuable team player in the Hustler Nation, and we regard him very highly. We were together in Kiambaa, and we worked together as a team, and we got a very decisive victory. In Juja, he worked very hard. We supported him from the sidelines, and we are all working together, for the next election. And Moses Kuria and myself were in the transport committee. We were chased away together. We share many things in common, and we are friends. And there are people who think that they can pit me against Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria and myself are too sharp to be pitted against each other. We have been around for a long time. We know there are very many people who are not sleeping on how they can divide the Hustler Nation. We shall not be divided.
All right, fair enough to that point. And given that these are political leaders who have political parties pegged to interests, be it of their political parties or individual interests, you are saying they will be accommodated in the UDA larger Hustler Nation?
Yeah, we are saying, the ultimate objective of Moses Kuria, Mwangi Kujuri, Rigathi Gachagua, Kimani Ichung'wah, and all of us is that we want to form government as William Ruto being our president. How we get there, is a matter of discussion and continuous engagement. I have told you there are those of us, you know, and we are quite a number. You'll be seeing us at the end of the week, quite a number, over 40 members of parliament who think that probably we think we want to be the UDA and is a party for the mountain, and it's also a national party. By the way, the Secretary General is from the mountain, Veronica Maina. Our first member of parliament, John Njuguna Kawajiku, is elected from the mountain. We have several MCs. It's a party for the mountain. But others fail, and rightly so, by the way. And none of us wants to fold the Moses Kuria's party. None of us wants to fold Mwangi Kijuri's party. None. I think we want to encourage multi-party democracy. It's only that we are having some difference of opinion in terms of strategy. How do we win this presidential vote for William Ruto? Do we go the UDA, all of us, or do we get small parties and get into a coalition? And that discussion is continuous. In any case, we still have time.
All right, Rigathi, let me bring in Professor to the discussion. Prof, we are talking of a UDA, and as Rigathi says, a party of Central Kenya, a national party. You view it equally as that?
Yeah, it's a national party. As to whether it's a party of Central Kenya is another, it's debatable. My own view is that Kenyan politics being what it is, and I think this is what is driving Moses Kuria and others, Kenya being what it is, Rigathi Gachagua, who is my Mdoniwa and other friends of mine, could as well end up being orphans. When this UDA party is finally squeezed into becoming a challenging party. I've talked about it elsewhere, and I fear that could happen. Again, it may or may not happen. But let me say this. The elections of 2022 will be decided right on Mount Kenya, on top of Mount Kenya. Who becomes president of Kenya 2022 will depend entirely on what happens around Mount Kenya. There is no, because simple arithmetic, it's just a question of mathematics, the figures. Ruto requires Mount Kenya to win the presidency. So if something happened to the Mount Kenya vote and he maintains his lead, but that something leads to him failing to get at 30 to 40% of the Mount Kenya vote, his bid is gone, flat. It cannot be revived. It's dead. And a number of things could happen on the mountain to affect the election of 2022. And therefore, when you see Martha Karua, Moses Kuria, Mwangi Kiunjuri, and I hear a few others are now joining them. When you see them sitting somewhere to talk about Mount Kenya, when you see Moses Kuria talking about his party, and I'm happy now, my friend Gachagua, at least now he has toned down. When last I saw him commenting on this issue, he wasn't entirely happy with what Moses Kuria was doing. But that is how politics is. Sometimes you see things with a lot of passion. Passage of time makes you tone down sometimes, which is good. But when you see things happening, including a small thing, an innocent thing, like those three politicians meeting, like Moses Kuria saying he will keep his party, like Mwangi Kiunjuri saying the same, and it is happening not in Western but around the Mount Kenya. If you are from the Rutos side, you must be worried or at least concerned, because you need the entire mountain to be able to clinch the presidency next year.
All right, and Rigathi, we equally saw the split on Mount Kenya East and West, of who is the spokesperson of Mount Kenya and who is not, of which party Mount Kenya will use and which party Mount Kenya will not use. You are, I suppose, an advisor to the president, a public supporter, at least for the record, of the Deputy President William Ruto. Surely a 100%, if not 99% Central Kenya vote will, as Herman says, make him the president. A split on that will be costly to the Deputy President.
I agree with the Professor. This election will be won or lost in the mountain. And we know that. And that's why we are working very hard. And there's no let up. And the mountain is ours to lose. As we talk today, the mountain is ours. And we have every intention to keep the mountain being ours. We will reach out to everybody. We are very, very encompassing, and the Deputy President, arguably, is the most accessible politician, national politician in this country. He has a lot of time to engage, and I can tell you, although the country has been locked down and we may not be going to public meetings, the Deputy President is working day and night. A lot of serious engagements and consultations are going on, not just to consolidate the mountain, but to build the UDA party and to consolidate the country. And there's nothing like a split between Mount Kenya East and West. There's nothing like that. It's a creation of the media, and it's a creation of those who like to divide the Hustler nation. In fact, the so-called Mount Kenya East is a bedrock of William Ruto's support in the mountain. You know, Embu is solid. You know, we have out of 6 members of parliament, we have 5 with us. You know, in Meru, out of 9, we have 7. You know, and good politicians like the ones in Embu and Meru never go against the tide. Professor, you may not know.
I know.
When you see Rigathi Gachagua sticking with William Ruto, and he's a politician who wants to be elected, he listens to the ground. He doesn't.
Rigathi, let me interject you at that point. In your response, you talk of the Deputy President, you talk of William Ruto, you're talking of Central Kenya. It looks as though it is a sealed case that if Abubakar, for instance, wants to be the president of this country, the door to negotiate with politicians like you from Central Kenya and some like you is already shut. Is it so?
No. William Ruto is known to us. We have a history with him, and we know him, and he knows us.
But of any other person who will seek the presidency and who is known to Central
We are not
Kenya.
closing the mountain to anybody. We are democratic people. Raila Odinga is coming. Let him come and talk to us and tell us what he has to offer to us. For now, the person who has been with us for the last 9 years is William Ruto. The others are just coming, you know, because there is an election. William Ruto has been with us when we were down. You know, when Uhuru Kenyatta was in trouble from NASA, he was there for us. He gave us a shoulder to lean on. We are very grateful people. We are not people who forget very easily. If you do us a good turn, we don't forget. And we are also Christians. We are people who are, you know, straightforward. We are credible people. William Ruto has been to Mount Kenya countless times. Even when Raila were calling him names that he's coming to church. I am happy now I have seen Raila Odinga going to church. What they were accusing Ruto of doing is what he is doing. I saw him yesterday waving a Bible. They were accusing Ruto of waving a Bible. I saw him kneeling down. People are praying for him. Well, let him come on board. I am sure. I am happy now that he has understood that the people of Central Kenya are Christians and they value the Christian faith. And he has stopped attacking churches. He has stopped attacking church donations. He has stopped attacking offerings. And he is welcome on board. But that does not mean because he has stopped attacking the church, people have forgotten.
All right, Rigathi,
people have not forgotten.
Rigathi, let me interject you at that point. You say the people of Central Kenya are Christians. You say the people of Central Kenya know who stood with them and when. There are those who say there is someone and a family in particular that stood with the people of Central Kenya when Kenya got independence.
Well, the generation that we have is not the independence generation. 65% of the voters, not just in Central Kenya, but the whole country, are not interested in those independence issues.
But history matters.
They are interested in matters economy. They are interested in somebody who is giving them a strategy on how they can get rid of poverty. They are interested in somebody who is giving them an economic model that gives them hope that they can have money in the pocket. And that is why we are saying William Ruto has continuously engaged us for 9 years. And we are easy with him because we seem to understand him and he seems to understand us. The ones who are coming now because there is a vote. Before that, they were not coming. So people are not foolish. But that does not mean we are not going to listen to them. And we are asking our people, and I want to use this opportunity on national television, to ask the people of Central Kenya to be tolerant, to be patient with everybody. Everybody who comes to the mountain, please, give them a hearing, listen to them patiently, even if you don't like what they are saying, even if you don't believe what they are saying, just listen to them and let them go away and make a decision, because our people are peaceful people and we want to ask them to, in this period, to be tolerant and to listen to everybody before they make an informed decision as to whom they think they can entrust their lives and the economy to.
All right.
And that is Central Kenya.
Let me bring in Professor to the discussion. Prof, we have seen politicians be of interest to the numbers of Central Kenya as a voting bloc. We have seen Raila Odinga making several tours to the region, Musalia Mudavadi as well. For someone who observes these, Prof, and given, as some say, that the Deputy President made an early entry into the region, somewhat getting a large population to believe in what he is fronting, is it too late for the rest? Or they equally stand a chance?
Before that, let me just say that Mheshimiwa Gachagua is a very smart guy. He says very many good things. Then once he has our attention, he sneaks in one thing. Like say, people of Mount Kenya are very good. They don't forget. They like friends. They pay back. And you asked him something and he ducked. The truth is, you cannot compare what Jaramogi did to the people of Mount Kenya with what Ruto has done. You cannot compare what Raila did for Kibaki and the people of Central to what Ruto has done. We don't even need to go into the details. And there was even Kalonzo Musyoka. So it really is not true that the people of the mountain really return Gwoko, they return Mkono and Arudisha. It's not quite true. It is a mix of our history and biases and stereotypes and cultural problems. But that's the problem. Now, to answer your question, it's not true yet. A year in politics is a very long time. A year. That is why, for the deputy president, I've always said, this guy, it is true, like Gachagua says, this guy has a mountain. In fact, sometimes when I say this, I have friends the other side. They really get annoyed with me when I say, if elections were held today, Mount Kenya will vote almost to a man for William Samoei Ruto, over 80%, which is what he needs to win. But there is a year in between now and then. Now, the problem that Gachagua and these people face is they have climbed to the top of the mountain. There is no space up. They can only come down. The other people you are asking, because we have a year, they have time to go up. What will determine the election, for example, maybe the meeting point as people like Raila are climbing and Ruto is perhaps just coming down. How low will he come down from the mountain? That place where you put X on a graph is what will determine whether it is Ruto or Raila who will win. So there are others. The other point about people entering the mountain now, of course there are many jokers. Politics has many jokers, as usual. For any political seat, there will be serious people, there will be what Americans call wannabes, jokers, flower girls. The other problem that Ruto and Gachagua will have to face is, one, they want things to remain constant. That's not how things work in politics. Politics is the most dynamic game. Within that context of politics being dynamic, you must also allow for I think it's a fact that Raila Odinga, using his friends and political moves, and this time is not locked out in the manner he was locked out in 2007, 13 and 17, is a free zone neutral. It's unlikely that Raila would fail to get 10% of the Mount Kenya vote on his own. And it will also be stretching imagination too far to try and convince me, Rigathi Gachagua, that Uhuru can come out empty-handed when he goes to the mountain to solicit for votes for whoever he will have chosen as his heir. Whether it will be Raila or Mudavadi, he can't come out empty-handed. Not having been president for 10 years, 10 years, not having been a Kenyatta. It is not possible that Uhuru will walk into Mount Kenya, ask for votes against William Ruto, for Raila Odinga, and he can't get 25, 30%. That is asking for too much.
All right, and because of the interest of time, Rigathi, 30 seconds kindly.
Well, that is true. Raila Odinga is welcome to the mountain to see what he can get, and it is perfectly in order. If the president decides to back him, the president is also within his right to see what he can do for him. As to how much he'll do, that is a moot point. But Professor, you must also know that it is not just Raila raiding Central where Ruto is strong. Ruto is raiding the coast very seriously. He is raiding Kisii. He is raiding Western.
Yes.
I mean, even if in the unfortunate event that Ruto was to lose some 20% in Central, he'll gain a similar margin in the coast and in Western.
Yes.
I mean, there's a guy called William Ruto. He's a serious guy. He knows what he's doing. And also he has a serious team behind him, ourselves and so many others. And the Hustler Nation is real. You know, in Kiambaa, Abubakar is a seat that had dynasties. Bio Koinange, Jenga Karume, Stanley Githunguri, Paul Koinange. It went to a hustler, a son of a single mother. You know, it is how serious this thing is all about.
Even though Rigathi, some will bring what the marginal difference of the number 1 and 2 was, isn't it?
No, there was no marginal difference.
And 49%.
It was UDA in red and UDA in yellow.
There was Jubilee and there was UDA.
The guy in Jubilee was for hustler. The Jubilee got him because he was very much ahead. So it was UDA red versus UDA yellow. It was a contest. It was a home thing. It was a friendly match.
A friendly match between Jubilee and UDA.
No,
at least that's what we saw.
Between UDA red and UDA yellow.
Fair enough. Rigathi Gachagua is Madhira lawmaker. Professor Herman Manyora is a political analyst. That's why we will